time. You got bills to pay and this and that, and you're listening to sports talk radio. It's like, come on, man, you're going to juice me even when I'm listening to sports talk radio. Look, this is the best cause there is. If you can support the V Foundation for Cancer Research, give. Go to v.org/donate now. And if you give today, by the way, your donation will be doubled by a generous V Foundation matching donor. You give $5, you really gave 10. Even if you give $1, give what if you can. We know things continue to be tough for a lot of people, but cancer has not stopped, and so as you'll hear all day, neither have we. If you're able, please give. Go to v.org/donate now. All right. Jay, yeah.
Well, I was going to say, hold on, Max, for 1 second. I just want to reply to Matt Wagner here.
On Twitter?
Yeah, on Twitter. This is what happens, and we give shout-outs to the show, and we embrace conversation and debate. I love it. After listening to Jay's comments on the talent level in the room in the home run derby yesterday, which was great, and his comments today, he's not a baseball fan and doesn't know anything about baseball or its players. It's actually wrong. I know a lot about baseball and its players, but I'm trying to become a fan.
Right.
I'm trying to have baseball win me over. There are certain hockey wins me over. Hockey, I was honest, never been
because hockey is basketball on ice.
And as a basketball player, most of my life I was myopic on my sport, right? But I go to a hockey game now. I'm like, oh, hockey. I'm like, this is incredible. Like
hockey, soccer, and basketball are all versions of the same sport.
Yeah, but I go to baseball games, like I start to fall asleep a little bit. Like I'm trying. I'm working my tail off.
I'm glad you brought this up, Jay.
I'm being real about it. That's fine.
Here's a problem with a lot of hardcore fans in niche sports. And baseball, though, is an enormous economy, in a way is a niche sport. It's a local sport and an older sport. Here's the problem. Here's Jay Will, who is a famous guy and has a big platform and is trying
desperately.
Really, but by the way, putting in effort, going to games. He's throwing out the first pitch. He's staying up when he has to get up early in the morning to watch, to try to get himself into it. And gradually, he's getting more into it. And he's a Mets fan and all this, unfortunately. But anyway.
Jeez.
You should be a Yankees fan if you're smart, but you want to have a good life. But at any rate, hardcore fans always like to do this. Instead of saying, hey, let's have a big tent, let's welcome people in.
They push you away.
They want to push you away. Look, Jay is not you. He's not a purist. He's not pretending to be. But he is interested. And it's important to have people who are coming to the sport as newbies, right, to give their feedback, because you're not going to see it as a hardcore baseball fan who's loved it his whole life. But the person with a new perspective will say, hey, you know what? Let me tell you what would make this better for me.
And Higo98_, I get it. I get that Max is, as a baseball purist, he's going to fall in love with the elite level of pitching in this pitching era. For me, I'm not as nuanced in the game to understand that aspect of it, right?
And I fell in love with the home runs during the steroid era, too. Like, I like the offense, too.
I love that, too. But if I'm sitting with Buster, right, which I've been at games, and we're supposed to go to a game, and he can help me understand that, and I get the knowledge of that, yeah, great. But, like, don't try to push somebody who's trying to become a fan of the sport, who's trying to learn more of the sport, pushing them away because there's not a deep knowledge understanding like you. Like, that's not cool.
Can I tell you something? Giancarlo Stanton, who tied the game with the two-run shot, won MVP, in his best year, he hit 59 home runs, okay? I believe he won the NL MVP that year. Hit 59 home runs. When you take away the guys who obviously juiced, by the way, we don't know who juiced and who didn't nowadays. Like maybe some of the guys we think are clean aren't, but we know who juiced, right? When you take those guys away, Bonds, McGwire, Sosa, the highest home run total ever hit in a single season by a player we know was clean was Roger Maris, hit 61. The second highest was Babe Ruth, hit 60 before the league was integrated. By the way, a lot of people are like, I don't want to look at those records. The third highest total ever, Giancarlo Stanton, 59. It's the third highest. Like this guy you saw hit last night is not just, Aaron Judge's second banana. He has already had a season better than Judge probably has ever had, right? Like, Giancarlo Stanton at his best is an historically great slugger.
A curiosity with Mark McGwire and Barry Bonds and all those guys, was that when baseball was at its peak?
Popularity, yes.
Popularity-wise?
Yes,
peak,
it was.
Right?
It was funny. The Yankees won altogether that season 125 games and swept the World Series. Greatest team of all time. In the middle of a dynasty where they came an out way of winning 5 out of 6 World Series. It'll never happen again in this era of multi-tiered playoffs. And what people really cared about was McGwire and Sosa.
Interesting.
That's why Bonds suddenly tripled in size and started hitting home runs at twice the rate he had previously. Because Bonds was the best overall player in the game, Jay. He was the best. He was better than McGwire and Sosa ever were. And he had to sit there and watch these dudes get all the press because they started to cheat, right? And at a certain point, Bonds must have been like, hold on, time out. You know what it reminds me of? You ever read comic books ever? Are you aware?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you remember Captain America was this like skinny little dude who took super soldier serum, right? Well, McGwire and Bonds got on super soldier serum. They were good sluggers early in their career who were already trending down because guys who come into the league with what they call old man skills, they're powerful, but they're not that fast and all this kind of stuff. They don't age as well as guys who come in as young and athletic because they can kind of age into what the other guys are eventually. So these guys started declining, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're breaking every home run record. And Bonds is sitting there like, yo, I'm twice the player these dudes are, but because I only hit 35, 40 home runs a year and not 60, I'm not getting the shine. I'm not getting the credit I deserve. He was already one of the greatest players who ever lived, Bonds. Then Bonds jumped on that super soldier serum. So if the guy who turned into Captain America, the little small guy, turns into Captain America on the stuff, what happens when the Olympian takes the super soldier serum, right?
The game gets skyrocketed.
But that's when it all came tumbling down. Barry Bonds was so good once he was on the stuff that he made a mockery of the record books, a mockery of them. It was like, oh my God, he's doing things that aren't possible.
Understood. But I also think what happens, because I think a lot of times people don't pay attention to where we are going as a society, Max. We are a highlight-driven society.
Yeah.
Everything you do. That's what SportsCenter was. Highlights, right?
No doubt.
Social media takes that to a different level. Highlights all the time. So you had those highlight-like moments. Now, I'm not saying that the game last night didn't have highlight-like moments, but it doesn't seem to carry the same weights as those jacks that are like. It's different.
It's interesting what you said. The way media evolves influences the way we consume things. So, for example, they found just by studying it that kids learn best in short 90-second segments, right? That's why they implemented it on Sesame Street. Sesame Street was the first show that wanted to like educate kids in a way, not just entertain. And the way they realized they had to do that is they had to keep cutting from scene to scene to scene for different stories, because kids consume that way. Well, then those kids grew up into teenagers and young adults, and we got MTV because we were already acclimated. We were already accustomed to consuming shorter bits of information. And MTV was at first video, right? And now you're saying the media is, because of social media, we get highlights. You get it on your Instagram reels or whatever. So that is also influencing how we consume things. When you have a long-form story where the dramatic moment is even better because it's been building and building over 2 hours, 2.5 hours, that works if you have 2.5 hours to spend building up to the moment. But if you're just consuming it on a reel, that highlight is no different than the cheaper highlight, right? That comes from a guy just hitting a splash three. To the person consuming it in small bits on Instagram reels, they feel the same. So you've lost in the trade-off that I mentioned earlier, where, hey, look, if you don't score a lot of runs, then each run is more important. Not on a highlight, each run looks the same on a highlight. That's interesting. Because of the way we consume media now, it argues against what I said earlier about, well, less offense means each highlight's more important. No, the highlights are all the same amount of importance.
Interesting.
God, that was profound what I just said. Did you hear what I did?
Yeah, I think, okay. Anyway.
It's unbelievable.
Moving forward.
I need a sports Nobel Prize. All right. The AL defeated the NLJ 3-2 for the 9th straight All-Star Game win. And, Jay, you have a problem with what you saw last night. We got it.
I don't have a problem with it.
But let's talk about a little basketball. I'd like to move on a little bit here.